Great. What an interesting session it was. I really liked the thought of every company in this domain bringing in their expertise and their understanding of how an alternative is required and what is the research status. I hope more and more companies work in this domain and we all work together to identify the right solution to for both the food tech companies that will make cultivated meat available for the market. Because if I don't know, you guys, the audience knows it or not, the way meat is made in lab or an environment industrial setup requires fetal bovine serum, and it does not justify the vision that everyone is trying to achieve of sustainability and climate change. And now that is one of the topic of our next discussion, and I hope that the audience will be able to understand the impact such alternatives have and why there is a need for such a solutions on the perspective, especially when it comes to food. And I'm delighted to bring on board our moderator, Ravi Nandan Sinha sir, and the panelist speakers are Narasimhan sir from Energy Alternatives India, Dr. Yogendra Kumar Saxena, Pratichee Kapoor, uh, for an interesting session. And I would now hand over the panel to our moderator to take over and let the audience know about what we are doing and why we are doing about it.
What happened basically?
We have now come from the meeting room to the live session now.
Okay.
Yeah, recording is started.
Yes. So can we start? I think I'll just need a go ahead and then we can start.
So yes, sir, you can start now. You are live.
We are live?
Yes, you are live, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ravi Nandan Sinha and welcome this afternoon to a wonderful session that we are going to be in. We've along with me are my fellow panelists, the Power Pack panelists. I'll introduce them to you shortly. Firstly, let me thank ClearMe for conducting this beautiful session on the topic of sustainable meat solutions that we are going to talk on. And all the wonderful ladies and gentlemen who have joined us, please feel free to raise questions. Please feel free to ask, because what we are going to talk is we are going to talk something about impact. The first session where I was, and I hope a lot of you must have been there, the opportunity that we see, the investments that we see in this segment, the scope that we see in this segment, the future that we see in this segment is simply amazing. And I invite all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to keep your questions parked. The panelists who are here are equally powerful and will be more than happy to answer your questions. And always remember one thing, no small or big question. Oh, there was a very famous advertisement that one question can change lives. Similarly, that one initiative that Clear Meat has started, has innovated, is now going to change lives the way we will think about meat in the future. So allow me to introduce my powerful panelist here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Yogendra Saxena. Dr. Yogendra Saxena, with 4 decades of experience in the area of EHS and corporate sustainability, has led the sustainability agenda at leading Indian corporates. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Saxena has been recognized with several national and international awards. We are very, very fortunate that we have got such senior gentlemen sitting with us. Presently, Dr. Saxena is engaged in mentoring businesses at initial stage of sustainability, integration, and advance their efforts. Also, he's a sustainability leader of international repute. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Yogendra Saxena. Dr. Yogendra Saxena ji, very nice to be here
My
with you
pleasure
and
also.
hosting you. We also have here with me the lady Pratichee Kapoor, and I'm very, very happy to introduce her. With 20 years of professional career, with current focus on delivering profitable and sustainable growth opportunities in plant-based food and beverage category. Experience in senior management roles, building strength, and currently she's the director with Bets, and she's heading Middle East, Indian subcontinent, and Africa. So it's a pleasure to be hosting you, Prachi. It's my pleasure.
Pleasure always. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And also we have Shri Narsi ji. Narsi ji, I would request, I don't have very much details of
not a
Narsi
problem.
ji with me.
Yeah, I'll make it short. My name is Narasimhan, Narsi for short. I head this firm called Energy Alternatives India. We are a management strategy consulting firm with a dedicated focus on climate tech. We probably were the first to start a boutique consulting firm for this way back in 2008. We are headquartered out of Chennai. We had the fortune of having worked in pretty much every vertical within climate tech, except actually food. So probably I can bring in some perspectives from the energy side of the business, and hopefully I can ask a few questions too. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Narasimhan. Thank you, Mr. Narasimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very, very powerful panelist team that I'm having, and I'm fortunate enough. My name is Ravi Nandan Sinha. I am the director of MSME Business Forum India, the forum which actually works on implementing ease of doing business. And today, I'm very fortunate that Meet has given me the opportunity to interact with these powerful fellow panelists. Thank you. To begin with, I would start with Dr. Y.K. Saxena. Saxena Sahab, I would request your opening remark on today's summit, your opening remark on the today's topic of climate change and sustainability. So, over to you, Saxena Sahab.
Just to give a brief impact, Indian legislation started in 1974 with the Water Act. Later on, because of the Bhopal tragedy, we thought of the Environmental Protection Act, in between Air Pollution Act in 1981. And slowly, after having about 20,000 pages of Indian legislation, without having much idea what is already written in the Constitution of India, because it was never taught to us, we move into the sustainability since about 2 decades. So today, sustainability is not a buzzword. And if you look at the climate change, it is visible. Sudden change in temperature during the month of January, February, and March, which we are predicting it is going to be very hot. Climate change is also visible. And when we talk of sustainability in any corporate or any industry, whether it is food or meat or milk, it is basically the triple bottom line performance: environment, social, and governance. Economic, environment, social, and the governance is also very important. Now we have moved further one step, and we call ESG reporting. It is environment and social governance. Most of the industries in India, if you look at the sustainability report, like from most of the FMCG groups, like I don't mind naming ITC, for example, it is more like a seminar we are giving it. If somebody taking bath with a shampoo or soap. And whatever little bit we are doing, we are putting it as sustainability, which is not the case. What is sustainable in meat industry means at the production stage, either we are not using the chemicals, as Pratichee just mentioned, what type of chemical they are supplying, or we are doing holistic grazing, like after one grazing, if we are feeding it to the cows and all, we will make sure to move it to the other land and go for grazing so that the soil fertilizer levels are maintained. Water energy recycle programs are there because grazing is very much water intensive. And as you mentioned, Nancy, that you will take some case of the energy also. Energy is also very important. Time has come now, we talk of herbal, for example, in cosmetics industry. And I say herbal is as verbal as it can be in cosmetics. They might put it one tea leaf and they say it is tea extract or tulsi extract, like pudin hara is without pudina at all. It is full of alcohol, which we take from dower, sorry. I am a very vocal environmentalist. I am going to tell the facts basically, and I have worked in all these industries. We should have locally produced meat. 135 million population is still my thing. Not even 5-10% are going to the supermarket and buying the meat, which is hygienically packed. So meat production is also going to be tomorrow something like a family planning. You have to knock everybody why this clear meat or organic meat or lab produced meat is better than the other meat which we are buying from the market. So marketing is certainly very important, which I think they are discussing separately. If we just discuss, as I told you, I'm a Kaist. We are coming from a non-vegetarian family. And I used to say in my engineering days that I'm a Brahman. So people used to say, oh, Kaisto mein bhi Brahman hote hain. Brahman in the sense I don't eat meat and I'm discussing meat today. So from that point of view, I'm Brahman. If we take the meat, for example, lamb, beef, pork, farm salmon, turkey, and chicken, the most worst one is the lamb. From climate point of view, it produces more CO2 during the stages of growing and cutting it. And chicken is the best. So for all meat eaters, I will suggest if you to switch on to turkey or chicken basically. Chicken produces only 2.33 kg of CO2 per kg of the production before transportation. That is extra. That energy I'm not talking about here. So basically, if you see meat production is very much bad about the environment. If we ask about the sustainability, energy requirement much high because refrigeration is required. Even transportation is supposed to be into the air conditioning weapons also. And roughly 14.5% of the global greenhouse gases are emitted from the meat production in countries. In conclusion, I will say, if at all, there's no doubt about it, that time has come that we should go for cultured meat. It is better. But most of the environmentalists are still saying that lab-grown meat will certainly create a problem for the climate change and sustainability. So if next time Clear Meat can discuss one more item, which is they are not discussing today, what are the legislation related to meat industry or processing industry?
We'll certainly make a note of this, Mr. Saxena, and we will, in fact, we'll come back to you on this, and even we will try and do some sessions on that.
The line is that we must grow meat in lab with taking care of the environment and say we are environmentally conscious with cultured meat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saxena sir. Thank you. I think the statistics that you gave, especially about the emission and especially about coming from lamb to chicken and to turkey, I think I'll come back to you on that. Surely. Mr. Narasimhan, your opening remarks on the topic, on the ecosystem, your opening remark.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I come from the energy sector.
Could you please be a bit louder? I think you're a little distant from the mic. Yes.
Am I better now?
Yes, better.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I come from the energy sector. Almost all the work we have done so far last 13-14 years has been around sustainable energy, which is pretty much renewable energy, energy storage, energy efficiency now. If you really look at it, just going back to numbers globally, out of 52 billion tons of CO2 equivalent of emissions, as Saxena as well said, you're talking about maybe 20-25% non-energy. 75% is energy, 25% is non-energy, and of this 25%, a good percentage probably comes from the meat industry. What I would like to say to begin with, as my opening remarks is, you see, eventually it's all about scaling. Today, whatever is the percentage of cultured meat or alternative proteins we are doing anywhere in the world, it's very, very small. Like what solar was 10 years back, it was practically, it was a very small number. Today, solar has scaled to some extent, to a certain extent, where it's supplying about 4 to 5% of all the country's requirements, and it could be 20%, 25% in about 10 years from now. What probably we should do is to see how to scale this sector. Now, I just would like to draw a contrast over here. If you look at energy, to a very large extent, it's a B2B sector. Yeah, and the emissions are predominantly CO2. Whereas if you come to food, to a large extent, it's B2C, and the emissions are predominantly methane. Yeah. These are differences between the sectors. At the same time, we have to see how do we scale this from whatever it is, some insignificant percentage today to 30–40% within the next 15 years. What lessons can we take from energy, even though it's a very different sector? What lessons can we take from the success of solar and wind? How can we apply it to the food industry, because this is B2C? And how can we scale it to, let us say, 100-fold what it is today? I think these are the challenges as a consulting firm I see. It's all very nice to talk about a whole lot of other things, but finally it's about emissions. And for us to really cut down dramatically the emissions, we have to figure out a way to scale.
No, Narasimhan, we will come back to you on your emissions, and we would like you to please make us all aware more about it, because that's one topic that I think all our audience would love to hear. And to the audience also, I would love that if you have questions, keep it parked with you. Post the questioning or our discussions. I'll ensure that all your questions are taken up, and we will put up. And I think, as Dr. Saxena or Narasimhan ji is saying, that there are certain statistics which you should listen and put your questions accordingly. Ms. Kapoor, I welcome you and would love to hear your opening remarks.
Yeah. So thank you, Clearmeat and Nandan ji, for inviting me to this wonderful, I would say, future relevant event. A lot has been said by Dr. Saxena and Mr. Narasimhan. So I'll just to wrap this up, I would say, sustainability to me is simply ways to sustain living on this planet for all inhabitants alive. A mindful shift from conspicuous consumption to conscious consumption is what will really, define sustainability in the most simplest way. And the reason is because if we don't mend our ways of unbridled consumption today, we are really creating and leaving a hollow world for our future generations.
Correct.
A lot of people on the, as an audience, as, people who are hearing, we may reason that why even should we bother about sustainability? What will happen over the next 100 years? Who cares? But this argument doesn't hold value anymore, because the pace at which things are changing, we are already staring at climate catastrophes, by each passing day. Sustainability and climate change are intertwined. Which means the way we consume has a direct impact on climate change. And, just adding to what Dr. Saxena also said, weathers are changing. It's exactly what we are experiencing today. Your wetlands are becoming dry regions are getting flooded, your arable land is reducing. So to put it simply, it is literally an unbalanced equation if we were to look at, of infinite and growing number of people on one side against finite resources on the planet on the other side. So therefore, some balancing act needs to be done, because the way we are guzzling resources, even 3 planets will be short to meet the demands. So it is an alarming situation, and about time we put not just our mind, but even our hearts together in saving the planet if we were to sustain our own species, on this planet. To give, just adding some statistics to it, while Dr. Saxena said lamb is most unsustainable, I would just say that if you're talking about different kinds of meat, starting from beef to lamb to chicken, beef consumes almost 15,000 liters of water to produce 1 kg of beef.
Oh my God.
That is how unsustainable it is, because it's a full supply chain. You need to first irrigate the land to grow the feed for the animal. Then to feed that, to raise that animal, you need another grazed land. Then to get it to a slaughterhouse, you need a lot of energy resources and water resources. So a lot of natural resources and energy that gets consumed just to produce that 1 kg of beef. Then another 10,000 liters to produce 1 kg of lamb. You look at chicken also, because you first need to erase a lot of forests to create those, farmlands to grow feed for chicken. So while it is the least sustainable, but in no way even eating chicken is sustainable. And because all of the food that we're talking about lies in the arena of B2C, but not only individuals, companies also need to, and I believe, thankfully, are also realizing the importance of their actions and offerings, that has a bearing on the environment. And I'm so glad to see, companies like Clear Meat. Actually, I should not call Clear Meat and, a company. It is a string of ideas. So,
or a thought process, or a process
thought
which
process
has,
actually,
yes, yes,
so
I think that is
ideas
more
like
appropriate.
Clear Meat. I'm so glad to see that they're bringing people together and instigating the right discussions with events like this. And they're working hard in the, in just the right direction to support the very construct of, sustainable living. So I really wish Clear Meat all the best in their endeavors, and definitely do hope that we see a lot more action and a lot more, fructification of these ideas on the ground in near future.
Thank you, Pratichee, and I love the statistics that you have given. It's an eye-opener for me. I'm making a note of it. 15,000 liters for a kg of beef and 10,000 for a lamb. Can we also hear for a chicken?
Ravi, sir, just
chicken is lesser. Chicken will be because if I add the complete supply chain, it will be somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 liters of water.
Saxena sir, you were saying something. Please, sir.
Yeah. Pratichee, just one correction here. I gave comparison based on CO2 emission, and you are talking about water sustainability.
Yeah. But since we were talking about the whole sustainability,
yeah,
even
I'm
there,
just saying
sir,
both the views are
yes.
different. That's
so
all.
Even there, sir, when you're talking about emissions, so we are talking about CO2 emissions and also methane emissions, right? So methane emissions, in fact, is more harmful than CO2. And then we do any kind of cattle farming, which is to the production of beef. Cattle release most amount of methane in the air, which is 3 times or 4 times more harmful than carbon dioxide. So even if we were to look at emissions, beef is most unsustainable, then followed by lamb.
That's what I was also telling.
Yes, and in fact,
lamb, beef, last is chicken.
Beef, lamb, not lamb, beef.
Yes. So, and
right.
The panelist and even Narasimhan ji, you said, I think now if we have to see from the other perspective, I think 70% of the planet are into beef eating. So we are emitting most of the CO2 from that perspective. And then Narasimhan ji, you highlighted very well about the methane. So we will come on the statistics part of it. But Pratichee, I would like you to answer this question, because you have taken us to the how we are keeping our planet ready for the next generation. Would also like to understand from you the cultured meat opportunity. Now, when I say cultured meat opportunity, Pratichee, I want you to tell us or take us through from the 3 perspective of people, planet, and then the taste. So tell us through that, and I think our audience would love to hear on that.
So since we were talking about sustainability, so in the same breath, I'll start with planet, the linkage of that. So as I was mentioning, cultured meat, if I was to link it to the health of planet, it uses just a fraction of natural resources compared to conventional meat, and be it any kind of meat for that matter, because supply chain, when you look at any kind of supply chain in cultured meat, cultivated meat, lab-grown meat, whatever we may call it, the supply chain is far more compressed to grow meat in a lab instead of a longer chain of cutting forest to start with, to prep first the farmlands to grow feed for the animal, then maintain huge tracts of land to feed and raise that animal, and then send it to a slaughterhouse where, again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of water and energy resources are required, right? So just imagine the loss of biodiversity that, the planet is going through in this process to clear forests, to create farmlands for feed, and then farmlands for grazing of the animals, right? And leave alone when it, add to that the usage of natural resources at the processing level. So clearly cultured meat is clearly the answer to maintain the health of the planet if we were to survive for millions of years going forward. Now, from planet, if we were to move to people, now what it brings to them is meat with all nutrients. So what we are talking about when we say lab-grown meat is we are replicating meat in the lab with all the nutrients which were anyway present when we butcher or process an animal, right? So all nutrients are there in that lab-grown meat. However, the positive point to note for people to consume lab-grown meat is it is devoid of antibiotics and hormones. And why I say that is, let me go back, and I'll go back to my comment of unbalanced equation, which I had mentioned earlier, infinite people on one side, which means there'll always be a growing demand, right? And what do we have on the other side is finite resources. So what that has, I'm not saying it will lead to future, but what that has already led to is that all factory farmed animals are injected with hormones and antibiotics, almost all. So there are only a fraction that you find in Europe or let's say some developed countries where you have free range organic feed products, animal protein, but 99% of the animal protein that we consume across the globe are injected with hormones and antibiotics. And it is simply done to bridge the gap between ever increasing demand for animal protein and the falling lagging supply behind that. So it is bound to happen, right? So cultured meat for people with its well-defined, I would say, processes and well-protected processes is a viable meat option. It's a viable clean meat option, devoid of antibiotics and hormones, but not devoid of nutrients, right? And in a way, it also means no threat to zoonotic diseases, which we have been seeing so often, these days. So we had avian flu very recently in US, because of which the cost of eggs actually increased 20 times, within a matter of 1 month.
We also had this foot and paw for
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you are actually cutting through all this nonsense if you're moving from factory farmed animals to clean meat like a lab grown cultured.
Now, Pratichee, my next question was also related to this. Was you also have to now, when you have told about sustainability, about its quality, free from this, you also have to now talk about the taste part.
Yes, so which is very true. For any food product, we are talking about food. Food is cultural. Food gives me pleasure, right? So if it has to be adopted, no matter what nutrients am I providing, no matter how clean the product is, unless it is tasty, for any food product to be adopted and be successful, it has to taste good. If it doesn't, it is a medicine, right? Now, because we are creating the actual meat in just a different and more efficient production and supply chain process, it provides people with the same experience and pleasure of eating meat. So there is definitely no compromise on the taste, whether you're doing beef cultured, whether you're doing cultivated pork or you're doing cultivated chicken. There is no difference.
So Pratichee, we'll also have to see how India takes on the packed food, especially cultured food, because and maybe I'll come back to you, or if you can just tell us in about less than a minute, what is the percentage, if you have some statistics of the people for packed food, especially for non-veg?
So in India, I would say as of now, our packaged food industry is very small, right? And it is not because there are multiple reasons for it. It's not because only that we are averse to buying packaged food. There are various reasons to it. Affordability has been an issue in the past. Supply chain infrastructure has been, and so these things are changing. The awareness of consumer is also changing. The purchasing capacity has been changing. In fact, changing, I would not say changing, but it has been improving for the better. It has been transforming. So I don't think we can go by the historical data, how we have been consuming, but we need to look and gaze into the future, how consumers is expected to change their consumption patterns, and the way things are moving, the patterns that we are seeing. India will move now with the rising awareness levels, need for more hygienic products, and infrastructure supporting better. Consumers will adopt more packaged food going forward.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. And yes,
lab-grown meat does carry a chance because it is more hygienic in nature.
No, Pratichee, thank you so much. I'll come back to you. And awareness, yes, I totally agree. And so will Saxena Saab and Narasimhan ji will also say that yes, we are lacking into awareness. We need to do a lot of things. But yes, thank you for some of the inputs. Saxena Saab, if you can tell us, if I may put it in this way, that what does sustainable future for meat production look like? If we can be straight into this, what is the future?
As far as whatever Pratichee mentioned, I agree with her. The main problem which is going to come with the cultured meat, because this is as clean industry as pharmaceutical, and it is as bad industry as pharmaceutical. The waste which is coming out from the cultured meat industry because of the microbiology involved in it, it is hazardous. Sorry to say, if it is coming from MSME or small sector, we have no future. If coming from the initiative coming from some big corporates like Glaxo or Britannia, if they are moving into taking care of the environmental things, yes, future is bright, no doubt about it. But awareness is required for public also, awareness is required for the industries also, what they should do with the waste to keep the sustainability and climate change in mind. This is mine.
Thank you. Thank you. And Narasimhaji, since you said about it, I would like to ask, what is your view in terms of the opportunity? The way Pratichee was asking for the cultured meat, especially from the people and the planet perspective. I want your view also onto this, onto the same question. Your views on that.
You see, as I mentioned, to me, I come from the business side of things, marketing side of things. It's all about scale. Unless we are able to get this opportunity, be it cultured meat, be it any other alternative protein with a lower emission footprint, unless we are able to scale it dramatically, we are not really doing justice. And the key there is going to be economics, right? Right now, be it plant-based meat, be it cell-based meat, these are going to be far more expensive than the traditional meat. Now, this is where I just want to say that, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we will have to see what we can learn from the energy sector. Solar was costing 17 rupees per unit 10 years back. Today is costing 2.5 rupees per unit. And the reason is not only market. The government got in right in the beginning. The government gave a lot of financial incentives, be it in the form of capital subsidies, be it in the form of viability gap funding. And government played an important role in accelerating the scale and bringing down the price. My submission would be for something like alternative proteins, especially something like cell-based meat, where there's a lot of investment required, the prices will be high in the beginning. The government will have to take a similar approach, learn from what they did in energy, give similar incentives, scale it up. Otherwise, the prices are going to be high, and India is a very, very price-sensitive market.
No, Narasimhaji, when you're saying about government, when you're saying about the role of the government, interventions of government, and you gave a beautiful example of solar, because I'm myself funding solar projects. Yes, it has come down drastically from what it started. But then, can we hear from you? What is the opportunity? What is the growth? What is the opportunity?
Well, you see, I may not know a lot in that because I do not operate in the food sector. I do very little work in the non-energy sector. All I can tell you is, like any other product, new product, even assuming government is there, it has to go through what is called as a market adoption. It has to be a gradual adoption by the market. I think the market guys, be it Siddharth, be it anybody else, has to look at a product market fit where they look at maybe the 2% of the market, which is still a pretty large market in India, and focus on them and crack that. Yeah, get it to a stage where they've got a market acceptance in the first 2 to 3%, and that's all they have to do in the next 5 years. Once they do that, hopefully the economics will start playing the role for them. Essentially, I'm saying, to summarize, I think they should take a pretty much textbook case of marketing, look at 2 to 3% of the market, just target the product to them, and in the meantime, talk to the government, talk to others, scale up the product, so that in 5 years from now, they can go to the next stage of the market, which could be 5 to 10%.
Yes, the market is there, Narasimhanji, because if you see the statistics, what we were discussing is the percentage of consumption. The percentage of consumption in my previous panel discussion, it was told it is just 6 kgs for India as compared to what, 100 kgs in US or maybe 66 in China.
Yeah, it's 150 kgs in US. Australia is about 80 kgs. So global average, if you were to look at, is about
40 to 50 kgs.
55 kgs.
So we are sitting at a 6 kg to 50 kgs.
Exactly.
I think the question is, are people willing to pay a much higher price for alternative protein? That's the question.
Yeah.
Narasimhaji, we have seen one thing.
I agree with Narsi, because affordable, even when we are saying 6 kgs for India, So, Mr. Nanda, what we need to understand is affordability has been also an issue even in consumption of the actual meat as well for a country like India.
Yes.
And as the incomes rise, historically, not just in India, we've seen globally, as incomes rise, awareness for consumption of protein increases. And that is what we are seeing in India as well, that more and more animal protein is being consumed because your incomes are rising. So things are changing. But yet affordability definitely does remain a key concern, and which will also be a concern in the adoption of cultivated meat. But that's not the only lever. I would say two bigger.
I'll come back to you, Prachi. I'll come back to you because
work on is regulations and education of consumers.
Allow me to come back to you because there is a question which has come from the audience, especially to Dr. Saxena, because it has been with Tata Power. Has Tata Power taken any initiative yet in alternative protein sector, Saxena sir?
Two questions were there. I have already replied no.
Can we hear for the benefit of all who will be listening?
Yeah, I said no. I have no idea, and there is no also answer which I have committed here.
Okay. And
there's another question here.
Yes. Which
and it is, if cultivated meat has such a negative environment impact, why does the hue and cry with the investor to consumer? Each and every activity of human, whether it is a haircut or going to beauty parlor or taking bath, has an environmental impact. We must make sure to minimize it, to control it for sustainability. And that is the reason I suggested that we should come up with all these good habits and there will be no impact on it. Legislations are there. They should look into beyond compliance, basically.
Yes. On the same question, Narasimhan, would you like to comment? Because this is a very good question coming from one of our audience.
Oh, well, I think I'm going to throw the question back to you guys. I was under the impression that cultivated meat has a much lower environmental impact than traditional meat. Isn't that the case? I thought that was a pretty, that was the whole rationale. So I'm not very sure what the questioner meant by that question.
And I say one line, Narasimhan.
Sorry?
I will add to you, because this is a microbiology, basically. So it will have an impact as a hazardous waste. Either you should have incinerator or it will go to third party like hospital waste to minimize it. Every activity has impact. So if we go for a haircut, it has impact.
The question is relative impact. For instance, you guys were talking about for beef, for lamb, etc. If it is X for a traditional beef, for cultivated meat, if it is X by 10, I'm fine with it. Isn't that? I mean, I just want to know about from Pratichee.
There is a biomedical, bio-based also from there, which is a problem. There's a water also, there's a emission also, there's a refrigeration need also. Everything is there, and like any other industry, we have to control this also, and industry will control it. Yeah.
Prachi, would you like to comment on this? I think we cannot see you. We've got few minutes left.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you.
So right now, we are discussing something, a product which hasn't been produced at a commercial scale, right? It is still at lab-grown meat, is still at a lab level. Apart from one company, Upside Food, or let's say Good Meat in Singapore, every other company who's working in lab-grown meat is still at bench level, not at a commercial level, right? So it is to be seen how what is going to be the negative impact when it assumes a commercial scale. Having said that, I think the moot point here should be, if we are moving into a cultured meat kind of consumption, we need to compare it with what is the emissions that we are experiencing, the planet is experiencing, with the traditional farming of animal protein versus if that was to be grown at a commercial level in the lab. Even if it is 20-25% lesser, I think that is a win-win situation for the consumers as well as, for the planet. And to add to that, it is add to the emissions. As I mentioned, the positive of no zoonotic diseases, no antibiotic injected into the animal protein, which in a way, when we eat, those antibiotics actually enter our body as well. So you need to look at a more holistic picture, sustainability, health of the people and the planet. And if we were to look at that, I think lab-grown meat is definitely a winner there, because there is no hormones that you're putting in to produce that lab-grown meat. And also if in terms of usage of natural resources, so when you do at a lab grown meat, I'm not an expert here, but your two major resources, what you consume are water and energy. If that also compared to the energy and water, what we are using to, to farm beef, for example, because beef, I keep coming back to beef is because that is the most consumed meat across the world. It may
Yes,
not be for
absolutely.
India,
More than
but that is
70%.
and that's what causes the largest carbon footprint, methane footprint for the planet and for the people. Even if we were to reduce that by 20-25%, I think it's a clear winner for us to move forward in that direction for the next 10 years. And just add to that, there are operational possibilities also, which lab grown meat gears up with. Where will you get so much forest to even erase those forests to create those
Allow me
farmlands?
to call
Where
Dr.
will you get
Saxena
that
here.
land? Where
Yes,
will you get that land?
yes,
You don't
Prachi,
even
allow me
have
to
that
call
much
Dr.
land
Saxena
left
here.
to even have those feed farms, to even have those graze lands. Where is the land left anymore? And that's why I was saying you may just need 3 more planets for
Yes,
people
thank you.
if
Thank
were
you.
to
Thank you.
consume that.
I would love Dr. Saxena to come here and say in similar lines the market and the opportunity and your closing remarks on this. Thank you, Prachi. Dr. Saxena, over to you.
See, from marketing point of view, because this is a new concept, even for the Western world, yes, we will take more time. In India, it is not easy. Like, for example, even cheese has not taken up a good shape in this country also. I don't know what percentage are using cheese. As far as environment sustainability is concerned, no doubt it is supposed to be better. It is as clean going to be industry as pharma industry, except the waste part, which is outside the plant. Market is bright. Probably if they people who are going to produce it to look into marketing first and then produce it. If they will start marketing after production, certainly it is going to be a failure according to me.
Thank you, Dr. Saxena. Thank you. And Narsiji, your closing remark. We got hardly a few minutes left. And one last question from an audience, if you can, while Dr. Narasimhan is giving his closing remarks on the entire system, on the entire concept. Please, Dr. Narsi.
Oh, well, thank you. I think I would say from a practical point of view, companies like Clear Meat, they are in for a long haul. They're not looking at a 2 to 3 year horizon, maybe 10, 15 year horizon. So I would request Siddharth and others to look at this as to identify the key drivers first, from a stakeholder point of view, from the market point of view, from even the policies point of view, and just be laser focused on making sure that they're able to get.
We lost you. We'll just wait for another 30 seconds because the time says we got less than a minute left. The audience, if you have any last minute question, I'll be happy to put it across to our panelist. Anyway, some technology issues, when technology comes and has its positive, we also have to take sometimes when we don't have those in our hand. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, I've got one question coming in. Saxena Saab, you will have to answer this question. It says, just a minute, I think.
The question
Why
says,
the government is not promoting such domains?
I think you are the right person, being the government.
I would say that it is not like this, that the India government is not promoting this, but please try and understand it is still at a stage where we need a lot of awareness campaigns. We need a lot of talking about it. We need a lot of research ourselves to be conducted and to be taken. Yes, the statistics that we come across, we are studying about it. And traditionally, Prachi, you will also agree, India is not a market where we are more into food as compared to Europe and the packed food. India is a market. India is a very different market. So it's a shift. But also, please understand that the pandemic has taught us one very good thing. We are a very good country when it comes to adaptability. Like whatever we have adopted in 1 year of 2020 or 2021, it is different. And now we are very much focused on quality. Quality is also which has come big time into India now. It is not that the government will not focus. It will focus. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure hosting and moderating this particular session for Clear Meat, and I would like to extend my compliments to the promoters, Siddharth, and the entire team, the backend team, which has which has conducted this webinar, which has conducted this more than a webinar. Let's call it a knowledge and an awareness session. You can imagine the knowledgeable panelists which were here. Imagine the concept that was discussed. Imagine the powerful information that has come up, statistics which has come up, which was never talked about. End of the day, when you say what government is going to do, is only when this knowledge comes into picture. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, my panelists, for being with us. It was an absolute pleasure to host you. It was an absolute pleasure to discuss with you. And thank you, ClearMeet. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you, Ravi sir. Thank you, Ravi sir, for such a wonderful